What's going on, everybody? Okay here, and today I wanted to talk about how top players or experienced players seem to know what the opponent is going to do all the time, it seems. So how can you basically read your opponent's mind? So there are a couple tricks to this, and to be honest, it does kind of vary depending on the type of player you are. There's actually, and this is like a classic video from Core A Gaming, where they break down the theory of types of fighting game players into brain, heart, and body, if I recall. Using that structure, I'm kind of a brain type player. I study the game, I try to learn as much as I can about the game to help inform my decisions. So I'm going to be giving you advice from that perspective. And to start, there's a couple of ways that are, if you think about it, pretty intuitive that can help you out a lot of your decision making. So let's take a look at that. So for starters, the characters themselves. So just the character you pick or your opponent picks will tell you some of their default strategies and even their approach to the game. So for example, I'm on Baiken, right? So what is the reputation of your typical Baiken player? I've heard some mean things actually, like feral, random mashers, and that should just tell you something about the type of experience that people have against just like online Baiken, and that will inform both what you think they will do and what you should do against them. So what it turns into is, do you have a good strategy to fight this, this, and this? It might sound straightforward or obvious, but you'd be surprised how many players don't have just like a general baseline strategy for each character. Most people, when they get to like a decentish level, it's usually because they have learned stuff about their own character and what to do, default strategies, combos, offense, all that stuff. So learning even just a little bit about what the other characters do in the game will not only make you like immediately better, but it'll help you deal with some of the strategies that they have. So to break down characters, for example, let's use Testament, because Testament has a pretty straightforward game plan. This is a character that I describe as having a two-step neutral, because step one is to get this out, and then step two is to get this. And then once they get Stain, this status, they become really, really strong, their pressure becomes better, their pokes become better, everything is just better. So that being said, we know they're going to try to enforce this type of basic strategy on us. So we try to think, okay, what can we do against each thing? So again, we know they want to set the mind. So basic, we could just air dash at this, but that's kind of a read. So why not dash block at it instead? I can also use my gun if I have the meter. I can clear it with Tatami. I can also clear it with this Tatami. So I have a couple of ways of dealing with it. Finally, if I preempt, I can use my chain to hit that. So that's all my ways I could use to fight the S projectile. But then I'm not always going to be able to interact with this S projectile. So what do I do about them doing this? So I can just get away from it, right? Just jump away. I can shoot the gun. This is way harder than the S-fireable version. You could just learn this through practice, by the way, or you could be like me and I went on Dust Loop to see, can I react to this, and it's looking like a no, not gonna lie. But then also there is the way this move travels. So there's this. So we see like the crow is kind of coming in this like down, diagonal down angle. Maybe my geometry majors will tell me the exact angle. I'm gonna say 45 degrees because I'm lazy. So because of this, I could try to go under it. So this is actually a pretty important strategy against Testament, which gives me really big return, and they can't burst it right away either. They have to wait a little bit to burst, so this is actually pretty valuable. And we know this type of structure is going to be core to Testament's game plan. It's not all they're doing, but it's pretty important to have a plan against this because this is one of their main goals in general. So we use the idea of their main goal and then expand from there. An example of expanding would be this. So this is me using the crow to preempt a jump. So in the case that someone does this, they get caught. So they would have to do something else. An example I gave before, my dash and then 2H will still work really well, but it's just that, oh, they have counterplay to people, let's say, jumping. you can use this mentality for not only the character's general game plan, like how do you think the character is trying to win the game, but also specific situations that are recurring. So we can use Testament again as an example. So Testament has a really big far slash. It's not fast. So what I mean by fast, like Baiken, Chip, they have 9-frame far slashes. Milia also. So these are like the super fast far slashes. Testament's a little bit slower, but they make up for it with huge range. Now, as we know in Guilty Gear Strive, everyone pretty much has the same Gatling. So from far slash, we know that there's no far slash 2S, doesn't exist, and you don't have far slash command normal, so no far slash 6P or 6H, anything like that. So Testament has far slash 5H and far slash 2H, as well as special cancel options. So right here, I recorded not every option, but a bunch of options that Testament has off far slash, because the important thing is Testament does have a lot of options off this, but their far slash does not have a lot of blocks on. It's attack level 2. Again, refer to the dust loop chart on attack levels if you want to learn about it, or you can watch my own video. I made a video about attack levels when the game came out. So because we know that Testament does not have a lot of blocks on this move, we can challenge in a bunch of ways. One common one is instant air dash. So we have, okay, this one's a little bit spooky. The 2H actually recovers in time for Testament to be able to act on whatever you do. If I think they're going to do it, I usually wait for them to whiff and then do something like Kabaddi or something. This one is really risky. There's a huge gap in between far slash and arbiter. And here's Crow to intercept my air dash. So Testament has some options that will beat air dash, some options that will lose to air dash, but it's a good thing to show because you want them to show counterplay to you jumping, because then you get to introduce things like dash block. So this is using character knowledge in order to build strategies and help give you an idea what the opponent is going to do. But this is not the only way. Another thing we can do is look at resource. So resources would include burst, meter, and then any character specific meter like eddy meter, bullets, anything like that. So resources give you an eye into what is safe and what is not, what mix-up can come and which can't, etc. So I have Soul here because Soul has a couple of really straightforward ones. So with meter, DPRC comes into play. This is pretty difficult to play around. You either need something invincible to cover you, or you need to hard bait it, or you need to make it whiff, or you need to learn some type of option select. Like, it's a pretty strong option, but then also it tells you what mix-up can come too. So I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this. And the way we know this is coming is that he has 50 meter. Slightly more advanced though would be this situation. So you don't really think about this for when they're going to do like DP into RC or something. But if you look over here, Soul has about 40-ish meter. But it's enough so that if he does this string, he will get the meter from the string and be able to get his mix up. People who are newer to the game will go for these things when they already have 50 meter, but more advanced players will see that they're kind of like teetering on the line and go into it from there. So if you have some type of counterplay to the setup, you might need to start looking to implement it before they have 50 meter. Something like that. So these are the two simplest ways you can make calls on what the opponent is doing. So one is just a character that they play. So learning by character can take a while because that's just a rabbit hole, like a super deep rabbit hole. But just learning everyone's default plan will help you out a lot. So as a side, like a personal note, any Evo, like let's say, you know, any Evo that comes out after a new fighting game drops, like 2-3 months, my main concern is learning as much as I can about the rest of the characters as fast as possible, because your biggest threat in that scenario is just running into something you don't have a response to. And just having basic strategies will help you out so much. As you learn more about characters and the game itself, you'll run into more situations that you're like, oh, this is like, they can't really do that much about this, and I can like kind of fight back and just really narrow down their options. It's really important for the high damage strike throw characters too, like Soul, like Geo, like Nago, all those. And then as far as resource is what makes you super powered, so it's really important to pay attention to. It's really important to know what characters can do with meter and what you can do with meter to help negate what is coming. The examples I gave for resource with DPRC and mix-up, these are pretty common ones, but there's some other ones that could be pretty hard to deal with. One more recent common one, for example, is this. This is like the fast BRC overhead. There's a couple of ways of doing this. It is basically universal. Off the top of my head, the only character that I know that can't do this is Zato, but it's not like Zato's struggling for mix or anything, right? But just to show you that there are examples of resource usage that is sort of universal. So for examples like this, it's just like, oh, if my opponent goes for it, then okay, I know that they have these. But if they don't go for it, then you don't have to worry about it. You also might have noted that I haven't gone into like the layer discussions. This was popularized in fighting games by I honestly want to say it was Sterling. Maybe people meme the description, but he talks about how there's like levels of Yomi, so reading the opponent. So your level 0 is just the default thing that you would do, and then layer 1 would be what beats that. So then there's a layer that beats that, and then there's an answer to that. But then once you get there, that's supposed to be the third level. What beats the third level is what you would do originally. So this. So we went through the whole cycle, right? I don't personally get too deep into that stuff, mostly because like one, I play a lot of characters that you could build out the situations in advance. Usually if there's a response, there's only like really specific responses you can do. And the type of guesses I try to inflict on my opponent are mostly 50-50, so I don't really dig into that. If you want me to talk about that, then by all means I can, but I think it's important for games where you can't combo up other stuff / some older games more than modern games. But anyway, as usual, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace out.